My journey as a multilingual began several years ago. I grew up in Canton, Michigan, a small town, just like Cary, where the most exciting things happening weren't very exciting at all. Then came June 2011, my 9th birthday, the day that marked the beginning of a new direction that my life would take. My parents decided to move to Pune, India, after almost 20 years of life in the States. I was in for a challenge. Although I had visited other countries as a child, I now realize how out of place I must have seemed, how ignorant I was and am of so many cultures and people. And that's true for many of us. How many of you have visited another country as a tourist? Let's have a show of hands. Almost all of you. Did you breathe a sigh of relief when you got back and heard familiar American tones again? That points out the unconscious yet incredibly close connection we have to our language and our culture. As I began life in the city of Pune, I was hit by a feeling of inferiority. Here I was, only proficient in English and my mother tongue Gujarati, while everybody else around me was speaking fluently in the native language. As I started school, everyone was speaking always in the native language. I would listen and I would try to follow, but I'd mostly fail. Here's what an introduction would look like. Kashi ahes? Kem che? Katham asti? Kushalam va? I see a lot of confused faces. That confusion was what I felt as a 9-year-old. If you're wondering, I just said multiple variations of a simple, how are you? I didn't know how to reply to that as a child, so I bet most strangers thought of me as a very rude child. As I started school, I encountered more of these languages, and I would listen and try to follow. But I'd mostly fail, and failures would be heartbreaking. When people laugh at something you just tried to say, and you're absolutely sure you weren't trying to make a joke, it's not very funny for you. It's rather discouraging, in fact. And I think that this fear of failure is exactly what holds people back in their quest to learn a new language. Failing to express yourself feels like losing a part of your humanity, losing your link to other people. That fear is not unwarranted because communication is so central to identity. That's why you hesitate to immerse yourself in a new language. But really, immersing yourself is the only way to learn something new. It has to touch the rest of your life. For me, it was a necessity to learn these languages, as I was put in those circumstances. And the beautiful thing is that healthy pressure hastened my learning process. There were ups and downs, of course, but the end result was a certain amount of fluency and ease in all these languages. The exposure to these languages has shaped me, given me an understanding of global diversity. It's exposed me to certain aspects of Indian culture whose significance I never would have realized otherwise. Out of all the languages that I know and learn, Sanskrit is the one that I find most fascinating. Sanskrit is an ancient Indian language and the mother of many living languages today. The word Sanskrit itself means something that is pure or done in a perfect way. Sanskrit has an incredibly complex and detailed grammar with 39 verb conjugates as compared to English, which has 7. The beauty of Sanskrit lies in its permanence. Here's a slide of a text in a certain language. Can anyone tell me what language that text is in? It's not Sanskrit. Let's make it easy for you. That's actually in English, Old English, what English looked like several hundred years ago. The transformation, as you can see, is remarkable. It's like a new language. In contrast, Sanskrit script has been constant for over thousands of years. Sanskrit texts are readable to those who speak it today. The decreasing presence of Sanskrit in India and around the globe is concerning. Although gradual adoption of English as a universal language is important for international ties, the resultant lack of interest in conserving several other beautiful languages is something that could disadvantage humanity. and the only way to conserve these languages is to use them. I'm here today to ask you all, to urge you all to learn a new language. It's definitely something that's fulfilling. Putting yourself out there, trying and failing at first, but going on to speaking a new language is incredible. It's easier now than it's ever been before. It's something you truly won't regret. Thank you.